When Brandon Mably isn't busy managing the Fassett studio, designing new knitting and patchwork designs, or traveling all over the world to teach knitting workshops, he just might be found sitting quietly in a comfortable chair, knitting. With no formal education in design, Mably made a radical career change from cooking to knitting in the late 1980s, and he hasn't looked back. I was fortunate to meet up with him in Seattle on a recent trip, and I asked him how he first learned to knit.
My mom knit for me when I was a child, so I suppose I was into it then. Not into it. I remember seeing, knitting around me and her making garments, and I have some memory of playing with pink plastic knitting needles while we were in school to be taught, and those were very soon taken off me because I remember, obviously, I stuck them in somebody's ear. How I came into working with yarn and was at the accidental meeting with Kaffe Fassett, going to the studio and just seeing the riot of colour in the studio and what a calamity the place was, which of course appealed to me because I just automatically stuck. What came naturally to me was to make some kind of order, and then the intrigue of how do you do this and how do you do that? Well, because he was a knit artist, or he was knitting and an artist, encouraged me to start playing with the yarns and the colours, and it was just an easy way of putting these colours together. And all I had to learn to do was the basic stocking stitch, knit one, purl one. Saying that, I'm sure Kaffe will be the first to tell you, I cast on about 30 stitches and ended up with 136. But I'm sure everybody goes through that, and now it's just a breeze. When I say it's a breeze, it's like sitting in a warm breeze, just knitting away, and you feel totally calm and relaxed. Somebody read an article on me one time, and they said, "Oh, ADD." Look, thanks, very good. I mean, she's never met me. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. I don't really care. But what it does do for me is just sort of cool me down. I mean, last night we're in the middle of this, at the end of this very long 6-week workshop tour, and last night Kaffe was hankering to go out, and all I wanted to do was sit and knit. Lovely.
Yep, I can relate to that. Excellent. What was the first thing that you ever made?
Well, I think the first design that I ever did was about 6 months after I joined the studio. I'd flicked through a book of simple watercolors, and there was just a basic drawing of an Indian basket, and there you could easily see that it was striped and it had two colors in the basket structure. So I related that structure into a knit design, knitted up a little swatch and showed it to the managing director of Rowan Yarns, which is the company that we design with, and they said, yeah, we'll do it. And for the first few years my designs were published under Kaffe Fassett Studio, so I was the studio and Kaffe was Kaffe Fassett, and then a couple of years after that, fortunately, I was able to have the name on my own design. So hey, here I go, look out.
So you've got one book that you've done,
yeah,
and you're doing another one?
Yeah, I had the honour of a publishing house coming to me and saying, well, when are you going to do a book, Brandon? I thought, my goodness, I better do something about it. So this was Taunton Press. They were publishing one of Kaffe's books, and I had been toying with the idea, and I thought I'd better take the bull by the horns and do something about it. So my first book came out called Brilliant Knits. Hated the title, but I wanted to call it something fancy. I can't remember what. But I think I kind of lucked out, because with Kaffe's first book being called Glorious Knits, a lot of people went around the shops in the early days looking for this book written by Glorious Knits. In England, a woman even phoned up a bookshop and asked for this book called Glorious Knitting, written by Yasser Arafat. So they were really right off the rails there.
Have you ever knit anything that was just all one color?
Have I ever knitted anything that is one color? Frankly, the idea of it would be a nightmare. Just because I need to be able, I need something to grab my attention and keep me stimulated, and keep me wanting to move on. And the idea of just doing row after row after row of beige, who've been like swimming through an endless swimming pool of cold cappuccino. No. Oh, can't bear the idea. And even if it was acrylic yarn, no, it's not me. If I'm going to bake a cake, I want it to be a party cake. If I'm going to do anything, I want it to be, a lot of people say to me, I knitted a sweater and, I've worn it for so many, and it was plain colours, and I did cables and a bunch of grapes. Lovely. I'm sure it was absolutely divine. And I've worn it to the office so many times that I can't wear it anymore. To me, that is a horror story. One, the yarn costs a lot of money. Doubly, your time costs a lot of money. So if you're going to make something, you put a lot of love and attention into it, you want to do something that is going to give you longevity. And now for me, I want to create something that is people are going to, when you walk down the avenue, I want people to look at you and think, wow, that's quite nice. You don't have to be Coco the Clown, and also what I'm doing is throwing out these recipes, and you can add your own little flavors. I'm just throwing you some ideas, and I love it when people take their own ideas and translate them into their own, it's like, making a soup. You put in your own spice, just like playing with colors. Yeah. On a serious note, I feel a bit like Dr. Ruth sitting here, sort of talking to you about this. Color is a psychological element, and a lot of people are afraid of it. It's all finding what you like and what you don't like. Color is not to be afraid of, and it's something to enjoy. I mean, when you walk into a room, and say it's a room that's painted in the shades of all soft yellow, you feel warm. If you walk into a room that's all hard white, you feel cold. So it's just a way of looking at colours. So colours not to be afraid of. A lot of people are, and so they sort of turn their back to it and think, no, I don't want to even attempt going down that road, and it's not what it's about. I also know that a lot of guys that do knit that I come across love knitting for the technical stimulation. For me, what lifts my skirt, it's what the South Africans say, it's what turns me on, is the colours. I'm not interested in doing anything technical. I do the basic stocking stitch, and the simple technique that we do, which we show in our workshops, allows you to put in unlimited colours, and it's what we call angst-free knitting. And so you can just skip across the row, and then the colours you're painting with yarn, the colours just flip in beautiful ways. So that's my take on it. But I'm not out to change the world. There's too many problems, and I'm just to show people what I do, and if you like it, then I'm happy to encourage you to try it your way. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Speaking of that, do you think that people are born with an innate sense of color, or do you think that it's something that you can learn?
Oh, this is a very interesting one, because we were asked this yesterday by a guy who, a young guy in the Seattle area, and he's a fabric rep, and he's inherited the business from his mom, and he's loving being in this world of colour and fabric, although he seems to be quite an intellectual 6'4" jock, but he's very intrigued by it. And he asked me the same question, is it something that it's an innate thing? Well, for me, I just do what I do, and I put it out there, and I'm very fortunate that people respond and like it. And then it was pointed out to me that, yes, you do have a little bit of an innate sensibility with colour. So maybe my sense is a little heightened because I've worked with it so much, and it's developed. And that also, maybe I had the guidance from my mom, which I'm very fortunate for. I didn't realise until now that's obviously where it had come from. But I think, I really believe that we can all work with colour. It's like a muscle. It's like cooking. You can, if you want to do it, if you want to ride a bicycle, if you want a tightrope, if you want to do it, you can do it. It just depends on how far you want to take it. Through the workshops I teach and the results I get from the students, I don't say I'm a teacher, I say I'm an encourager, and I'm here to push you as far as I can push you. And the results are absolutely staggering, and I get so inspired by the results I get from them. I feel very encouraged. I'm very fortunate for this sort of, for knitting with colour. I mean, I'm such the rich person for it. Yeah, and that I can share it with people.
Good.
Yeah.
There are more and more guys knitting. There are still quite a lot, though, that think that it's kind of a girly thing. Do you think that's going to change?
I do think it's going to change, yeah, because the perception has changed. It's now, well, it's a fashionable thing, which has helped. Once they actually do start doing it, they find that this very simple movement is like, it's like listening to the grandfather clock ticking on the pendulum, tick, 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 tick. Being hypnotized. You just, I don't know, your mind becomes wider and more open, and then if you're working with colours and you pin it up, stand back and look at it, you think, wow, I did that. I'm not so bad after all. And then you start realising your confidence is starting to build, and you don't feel so afraid of trying your own colourway. It was funny. When I was flying over from Toronto to Seattle, and we had to stop in Vancouver and then come down to Seattle. I was absolutely exhausted, and thank goodness for my knitting. And I just put my head down and I knitted away. And I don't even know if anybody looked at me. I don't care. But there was a guy that was sitting next to me, and he was reading a book on how to treat his girlfriend. I was thinking, oh, you guy, why don't you just knit her a scarf? You'd win her heart. Dare I say, I live a very charmed life, only because I believe in what I do. I'm not afraid to be myself, and what I'm about is this terrible swear word called colour. I like to wear clothes that have wonderful colour combinations. I like to be surrounded by colourful combinations. I like to look at art. I mean, I like to question. I'm a people lover, and I like to share what I'm about, and so I'm about creating colourful symphonies that I can put out to people, and hopefully they will welcome them and use them in their own lives.
Knitting was actually invented by men.
It was.
A lot of people don't know that, and that's kind of important.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say it was. No, out of necessity. The fishermen, they'd be bored, bouncing on those waves. How do they cope with this and so forth? What do they do with the time? So to keep themselves warm, they'd knit themselves a hat or gloves. I understand that knitting originally came from Egypt, and it was kind of a puzzle of rubbing two sticks together on a piece of string and forming a knot, and then another knot, and so this is how it came about. Now I'm sure somebody will come along and say, "Oh no, it wasn't." Well, I don't. We'll see. This is what I understand.
Yeah, that's the trouble, because it's hard to trace.
Yeah.
Because it's all disappearing.
Yes.
What are you making?
Well, this is to do with my book. Excuse my red shoes. Somebody said they look like Ronald McDonald shoes, and I think they're rather understated. Anyway, I'm doing a book on inspiration, and this is the stone walls in England, and lots of shades of greys can be quite beautiful. So this is a stole that I'm working on, just playing with lots and lots and lots of different shades of reds. And see how beautiful these trousers go, and this coat. I mean, you see, colours, colours, colours. What I want to do with people in the workshops is push them down an avenue where they've not been before. A lot of people are afraid to use a certain colour, say yellow, or orange, or maybe white if that's where they want to go. Well, first off, seeing the techniques that we use and how they can put colours in and use unlimited amounts of colours anywhere in their knitting, so they can just bounce along, and then trying unexpected little colour happenings, like if they're playing with blushes of greens, light greens, and then they just throw in an accent of a very soft buttery yellow, and how that will just warm it up. Or if they're working with maybe pinks, and the pinks are looking a little bit too much like bubble gum, and they throw in a little slash of orange. It's like adding a bit of orange peel to I don't know, a margarita or something. Or if you're working with lots of yellows and you throw in a bit of lime green, it's like the lime that goes with the gin and tonic. It's like painting with yarn. It really is, because you know, when you learn this basic technique, you can put a colour into the row at any one point, go from one stitch to the other where you don't have a hole, and you also knit in your tail ends as you go along. Now, frankly, I wouldn't knit if I didn't know that technique, because the idea of having to laboriously sit down and sew in all your ends, unless you have a very dutiful maid who you can get to do it afterwards, or your mom, no, it's not. You know, that's not going to lift my skirt. So I want to, you know, if you do it as you go along. Unfortunately, my mom is one of these knitters. She does take our patterns and she does do her own colorways, and she does a beautiful job. But she cannot enjoy it until the back is as tidy as the front. It has to look like grains of rice. And to me, my energy needs to go into what the front looks like. You know, you're not going to wear your garments inside out unless you've gotten up late for work and you've just had to run out of the door and hope that nobody notices you. You know, I have had to get used to ladies coming up behind me when I'm wearing a garment and lifting the back of my sweater to look at the inside without even saying hello and can we have a look at your garment and don't you look nice, and my name is Mary. Forget that. It's just up with the back of the sweater. I just hope my shirt's tucked in. Seriously. So my bag is, you know, what's on the front, not what's on the inside. That's where the energy goes. Too much effort goes into worrying about the back. And yeah, you know, and the thing is, if you're going to make something, you want to enjoy it. It shouldn't be a prison sentence. It shouldn't be a laborious, you know, like you're having to conquer the ocean by swimming across the channel or something. Oh, forget that. You know, enjoy what you're doing. Life's too short. I mean, the way I was taught was, you know, don't do this, Brandon. Don't do that. No, you can't do this. Sit down. No. And my thing is now is, you know, learn to play, learn to enjoy what you're doing, and then human nature will want us to tidy up our act as we go along. You know, we'll want to start tidying up our backs and learning little details and so forth. So enjoy it. I mean, you know, that's so important. I can remember the first time I started off as a chef, and before I came into the world of working with colour. So I've had no education or schooling on working with colour, and I can remember when I was learning to bake, I cracked an egg and all the eggshell went in with the egg and I couldn't get it out, and I got a real telling off because I'd wasted an egg. It was an egg. But you know, how that memory stayed with me. So, you know, learn to crack eggs and throw the flour around and just have a good time. Try, you know, if you don't try, you'll never know. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because every mistake you make is a good mistake. And when you make a mistake, you realize, okay, I've done that, and you move on. Learn by your mistakes. Look up and don't look down, you know, and that's what I'm learning. That's the only way to go. You're only here for one trip.
Okay, one more thing that just might inspire others. When you've knit, like at an airport or in public somewhere, have you ever gotten reactions that were unfavorable or favorable?
I've only had compliments of curiosity. What are you knitting? Oh, how lovely. Oh, my auntie used to do that, and I used to knit, and so acknowledgement, never of put down. And I'd be very surprised if somebody did come up to me and put me down, and I'd feel sorry for them if they did give me a little snub, because I'd think, well, you know, it's a shame because you're missing out. You really are, and you know, if you obviously haven't tried or had a go, or it's your problem.